Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters and wonderful honored guests.
Greetings.
I had the wonderful, nerve-wracking experience to deliver a wedding toast for my stepdaughter, Ashley, back in January. You would have thought that after spending 1 year in Toastmasters and participating in 2 speech contests, that I would have been more seasoned for this event. Nah, didn't happen. The last time I gave a wedding toast was about 15 years ago. And I like to say that the reason that I'm in Toastmasters today was because of that wedding toast. It was terrible. I was completely unprepared. Notes, none. Written explanations, none. I simply grabbed the microphone and I walked up to the platform and thought I was just going to wing this thing. It did not go very well. So I feel like this wedding toast that I had back in January gave me the opportunity to redeem myself. You know, I feel like I can still see the looks on the faces of some of the people at that wedding toast that I gave. They just looked horrified. It was like a train wreck. Bam! They just had horrified expressions on their faces. So, with this new opportunity, I had the opportunity to, again, give a toast for a family member. And for me, giving a toast for somebody in the family can be a little stressful. Plus, in my case, there's the complicated entanglement of ex-wives, ex-husbands, stepkids, boyfriends, and girlfriends. It's kind of like in war. You have your friendlies, you have your hostiles, and you have collateral damage. Let me try to give you a better explanation of what it felt like. After the wedding, the photographer called all the family together to do the photographs. And he actually used a chart to help divide us up into different factions so that we could be photographed together with our like people. And me, with my sarcastic sense of humor, I remember standing there thinking to myself, gee, I wonder if I ought to suggest to him, well, what if we could do a photograph with me and my ex-wife, her first husband, her boyfriend, and my girlfriend? I knew that probably would go over like a turd in a punch bowl. So, anyway, and I don't want to sound paranoid, but my ex-wife's current boyfriend just kept looking at me with those like laser beams in the eyes. You know, it was like, eh. So that didn't add anything to the stress factor. Getting back to the toast, though. This time, given a wedding toast, I really felt empowered. I felt like I had new tools to use. And I did some reading, I went online, and I actually watched some toasts on YouTube. And it was like jackpot. I was able to see, by the fact that I'm such a visual person, people delivering toasts, or fathers delivering toasts to their daughters. And what that did for me was it sort of gave me a visual thing that, in my mind's eye, it taught me what I really wanted to do with my toast. And the best ones were very structured. They included humor, a bit of teasing, a sprinkle of embarrassment, and ultimately, they concluded with a sense of unconditional love for their children. They also utilized great storytelling, shared memories, and a sense of pride. What I hadn't anticipated, though, is when I got to the reception hall, I started to really get nervous. I had the opportunity for the first time to see what 220 people looked like all together under one roof. You know, I've read that it's really a good thing to familiarize yourself with the place where you're going to be given a toast from. And I knew I'd be doing it from the dance floor. So I walked out onto the dance floor to try to survey this giant scene of people. And it was then that I really panicked. So I went into the men's room, splashed cold water on my face, and tried to sort of collect myself. I came back out and reminded myself that this was not my first rodeo. There was very little time to worry, actually, because I heard my name called. Almost immediately, it was time for me to go up and give my toast. I had my note cards in my pocket. I walked up to the wedding planner, and for the first time I thought to myself, there's no podium there. I'm so used to a podium. I'm out there on the dance floor. So I've got my note cards in my hand, and I got my microphone in this hand, and I'm thinking, well, how am I going to flip through the cards? You know, do I put maybe I put the microphone under my arm and kind of like lean down and flip through the cards and speak into my armpits? No, I didn't see that working for me. So I just had to put the idea of these cards aside, and I went with, I started out with a memory that I had earlier when I talked to the wedding planner, and I said to him a few minutes before my toast, what do you think I ought to, or do you have any suggestions for me for giving a toast? And he looked at me and he said, well, whatever you do, don't try to be too funny. And as I said to the guest later, as I started my toast, I said, I don't think that that's going to be a problem. So right away, I got a laugh out of him. And that really helped loosen things up for me. I recounted how my future son-in-law, Dan, came to ask me for permission to marry my stepdaughter, and how that was such a defining moment in my life. It was a moment I would never forget. And I began to relay some stories about Ashley growing up, especially how she had this penchant for taking on the last name of the boys that she was interested in at any given time. I can remember her being Mrs. Levy. For a while she was Mrs. Jones. She was Mrs. Hannigan. I think she was Mrs. Obama for a while. There was Mrs. Trump. Anyway, you get the idea. And I may have augmented it a little bit with a few names. But the crowd was really starting to laugh and go along with me. And it helped me gain more confidence. Now for that sprinkle of embarrassment, I brought up Blanky. Most kids have a blanket or some similar security object, but Ash was different in that she made up a song about her blanket. And she would sing the song to her blanket, and it was hysterical. And I'd go to the audience to try to see if they would get me to sing the Blanky song, but I finally said to them, no, I can't do that. It would just be too embarrassing for her to sing the song. She'll have to do that for you. I ended by sharing a final memory I had about Ash. And when I first came into her life as a step-parent, she was probably 4 years old. And I used to have this game I played with her where I would pretend that I remembered real early events in her life, like things that had happened before I really knew her, like her being born or coming home from the hospital and changing her diapers. And she would always say to me, "You weren't even born in my family then." I concluded with telling everyone there that we didn't start out as a family, but we grew into one. And I finished by turning to Ash and saying, "Ashley, I really never did change your diapers, but I hope one day I'll have the opportunity to change grandchildren's diapers." Afterwards, I got a lot of nice compliments from guests, from some total strangers, and I even had one person ask me if I was a professional speaker. Go figure. I still have 2 more single daughters, so that'll probably give me the chance to give 2 more wedding toasts. Unless, of course, when you consider the possibility of divorce, maybe there'll be a few more chances. Madam Tabletop, Madam